A young girl unknowingly inherits a terrifying curse. At night, her head detaches, hunting for flesh. As fear spreads in her village, she's caught in a love triangle that tests loyalty and sacrifice. This is the haunting tale of Inhuman Kiss, where horror meets heartbreak. Let's start and spoiler ahead. Somewhere deep in the forest and far from the cities, 4 children venture toward an abandoned house as night approaches. They begin playing hide and seek, and a girl named Sai tells her friend Noi to go inside the house with her to avoid being found by the seeker. They decide to split up into different rooms. But while exploring, Sai finds a mysterious box on the floor with its lid open. She slowly approaches and looks inside, but sees nothing but spider webs and dust. And thinking it's nothing, then she lowers her guard, unaware that a bodiless head is creeping up behind her, its tentacle-like appendages reaching out to grab her. Then, years later, Sai has grown into a beautiful woman. She applies lipstick before heading out for the day. Then she meets her friend Jerd, who has also grown up and takes the opportunity to show off his chiseled body before putting his shirt back on. And it's clear he has a crush on Sai and is trying hard to win her attention and hoping to avoid the dreaded friend zone. Then Jerd accompanies Sai to the local hospital, where she works as a nurse. However, they discover that all her colleagues, including the doctor, are missing due to the ongoing war, and their conversation is interrupted when a family arrives with their young son, who has sustained a minor knee injury. And the boy's mother warns them about a terrifying creature, a demon with a flying head, that has been spotted at night feeding on livestock. And she advises them to lock their windows and doors before sleeping. However, Sai finds herself distracted by the boy's wound and unable to focus on the conversation. Then that night, taking the woman's advice, Sai locks her windows before going to bed. As she sleeps, she has vivid dreams of the abandoned house and the mysterious box inside. Then she wakes up suddenly, feeling unrested. To her horror, she finds her room in disarray and the window somehow open. Then a sharp pain radiates from her chest, revealing a red scar beneath her clothing. But what's even more terrifying is her sheets are soaked in blood, and she's not sure if it's even her own. And terrified by what's happening to her, Sai tells Jerd about her strange visions and convinces him to accompany her into the forest, where she saw the abandoned house in her dreams. Then they follow the path deep into the trees, but night is falling quickly and Jerd begins to worry for their safety. Suddenly they hear footsteps from afar and immediately hide. However, it turns out to be their childhood friend Noi, who had moved away from the village long ago. And excited, they rush forward to greet him, but Jerd hesitates as he watches his crush embrace the other man right away. A wave of jealousy washes over him, and he can already sense a love triangle forming. Then their reunion is short-lived as a group of armed men arrives close behind. But their leader doesn't look like the humanitarian type. As they enter the village, the group reveals cages full of severed heads, and claiming to be Krasu hunters from a neighboring town. These people call these heads Krasu. Then their leader Tad explains that Krasus are extremely dangerous, and they appear at night devouring livestock and eventually attacking people. Even more terrifying is, just a single drop of their saliva can infect other women, and turning them into Krasus as well. The villagers find this hard to believe, especially Sai's father, who is village leader. However, seeing that the hunters are heavily armed, so he has no choice. That's why he allowed them to stay for the safety of the people. Then, next morning, Sai wakes up in shock after another disturbing vision and suddenly vomits blood onto the floor. Then she glances at the window and it's open again, just like the previous night. And this time, there's even more blood on her bed. But panic sets in as she lifts her shirt and sees that the red scars have grown significantly. The horrifying truth is undeniable because she is becoming a Krasu. Then things take a turn for the worse when she discovers that Jerd has joined the hunting party, along with several other villagers. But Noi tries to convince him to quit, and warning that the hunters are dangerous and violent, but Jerd refuses. He insists this is the only way to protect Sai and the people he cares about. After this, that night, the hunters spread out across the village and patrolling for any signs of the demon. Meanwhile, Sai feels the transformation taking hold again, and her veins darken to a deep red as blood gathers around her neck. And in a terrifying moment, her head detaches from her body and she has fully transformed into a Krasu. Elsewhere in the village, a sleeping woman wakes suddenly and sensing something is wrong. She looks over in horror and her baby is missing from the carriage. Then her scream of agony pierces the silent night. After this, the husband rushes to the demon hunters for help and the villagers follow him back to the scene. where they spot a glowing demon soaring through the sky, and without hesitation, Tad begins firing at the flying head, this completely disregarding the baby's safety in his attempt to kill the Krasue. And after multiple shots, the creature vanishes into the darkness. Then, fortunately, the villagers manage to find the infant lying on the ground. Meanwhile, Noi catches sight of the Krasue in the sky and instinctively chases after it, eventually arriving at Sai's house, and fearing for Sai's safety. So Noi climbs up to her window and noticed something horrifying, because the flying head belongs to Sai. As he watches in shock, she reattaches herself to her body, and Sai regains consciousness. But the realization of what has happened strikes her hard that Noi has seen everything. The man she loves now knows her monstrous secret. Overwhelmed, Noi loses his grip and falls from the ladder. Then Sai cries out in agony, fearing that he may never accept her now. After this, Noi seeks wisdom from the village monk, who seems to know a great deal about the origins of these demons. Then Monk explains that both male and female versions of these creatures exist, and the males are called Krahangs. And the first of their kind were once ordinary people who experimented with black magic, only to be cursed into becoming monstrous beings of the night. And sensing Noi's internal struggle, the monk tells him that this Krasue must be someone very important to him, and advises him to follow his heart in making the right decision. Shortly after, Sai undergoes another painful transformation, and writhing on the floor as her body begins to change. But this time Noi makes a choice, and he decides to help her instead of turning away. Then, remembering the monk's words, he brings her numerous chickens, and allowing Sai to satisfy her hunger without harming anyone or risking exposure. Then next day, Sai seeks out Noi and embraces him, tears streaming down her face. Then she thanks him for not abandoning her and for accepting her despite the horrifying truth. Then their bond grows stronger, and their love deepens, and Noi continues to secretly feed Sai at night, keeping her hidden from the hunters. And thanks to his efforts, that no one has spotted the Krasue for over a month. Then Noi receives crucial information from the monk, who tells him about a rare plant that can temporarily prevent a Krasue's transformation. However, the monk admits he has never seen it himself. One day, while tending to a patient at the hospital, then Sai takes a sip of tea and places the cup on the table. Just then, Gerd calls her, warning that a full-scale hunt for the Krasue will take place that night. Distracted by the conversation, Sai doesn't notice her patient eyeing the cup of tea. Some moments later, the infection spreads rapidly and the girl begins transforming that day, but right in front of her horrified parents. Then hunters arrive immediately and find her headless body on the floor while the Krasue hides beneath the table. But Tad, unwilling to show any mercy, orders his men to kill the creature. Despite the family's desperate cries, the hunters fire multiple rounds at the table, killing the girl instantly. Then the family screams in agony as they watch their only daughter die before their eyes. Meanwhile, Tad rips out the creature's heart and laughs maniacally. Because Sai was the only nurse working in the hospital that day, then hunters begin to suspect her as the original Krasue. This revelation causes distress among her friends, and Sai is consumed with guilt over the girl's death. So she realizes her own life may now be in danger as well. Then Noi tries to comfort her, and reassuring Sai that they might still have a way out, because he has discovered plants near the abandoned house that could temporarily stop her transformation. Then, clinging to hope, they make their way into the forest, reaching the eerie structure that holds painful memories from their past. And venturing deeper into the backyard, they come across numerous glowing plants sprouting from the ground. Then Sai hesitates at first, but eventually plucks one of the fruits and eats it. Instantly, she feels relief, and the transformation subsides. Then, relieved, Noi quickly gathers as many plants as he can, determined to help her. Then Sai watches him with gratitude, realizing how deeply he cares for her. In that moment, their bond solidifies, and overwhelmed with emotion, they share a passionate kiss, finally seeing a glimmer of hope in Sai's desperate situation. However, their celebration is cut short when the demon hunters, along with Gerd, arrive, and having secretly followed them. And upon seeing Sai kissing Noi, Gerd is overcome with rage. Then, jealous and heartbroken, he charges at Noi and punching him furiously. Meanwhile, Sai takes advantage of the distraction and runs from her pursuers toward the abandoned house. She rushes inside and finds the mysterious box once again, but this time it's glowing red and pulling her closer. Suddenly, memories from that fateful night years ago resurface, when the Krasue crept up behind her and kissed her, and transferring its memories into her. Before she realizes it, Sai is completely overtaken by the previous Krasu's spirit. And consumed by its power, she begins attacking and killing her pursuers one by one. And witnessing the carnage, Tad opens fire on her, determined to take her down. But in a shocking turn, Jerd steps in and tries to stop him, giving Sai a chance to escape. But enraged by the betrayal, Tad violently throws Jerd off the building. After some time, Sai regains control of herself and returns to her human form. And seeing the opportunity, Noi sneaks her back into the village. When she arrives at home, she safely stores the medicine and hoping it will help her maintain her humanity. Meanwhile, chaos erupts as the village learns of the previous night's massacre. Then news spreads that every single demon hunter has been slaughtered by the Krasu, except for their leader, Tad, who barely survived and managed to bring Jerd back with him. And wasting no time, Tad gathers the villagers and recounts the horrific attack, then accusing Sai of being the monstrous killer. And his words fuel fear and rage among the people, sparking a witch hunt against her. Then Sai's father desperately tries to intervene, but the crowd is already set on seeking justice. Luckily, Sai has managed to suppress her transformation by consuming the herbs. When she appears before the villagers, she looks completely normal. Using this to her advantage, she turns the tables on Tad and accusing him of attempting to assault her in the forest. Then villagers hesitate, uncertain who to believe. And sensing the tension, Tad demands Jerd tell the truth about what really happened. But torn between loyalty and love, Jerd ultimately chooses Sai, and confirming her story despite knowing it's a lie. And realizing he has lost control of the situation, Tad takes a desperate measure. He grabs the village leader, holding him hostage to keep the angry crowd at bay. Then, in a final act of defense, he fires his gun, using the chaos to make his escape. After watching Tad flee, the village leader urges everyone to return home. Meanwhile, Sai is overwhelmed with guilt and ashamed of the lies she told to save herself. But Jerd, exhausted both physically and emotionally, then he heads back to home, but as he steps inside, he senses someone behind him, and it's the hunter. Before Jerd can react, Tad moves closer and sinks his horrifying fangs into him. Meanwhile, Sai continues suppressing her transformation with the medicine, but the supply is dwindling with each passing day. Then, Noi tries to solve the problem by growing the herbs himself, but his efforts fail, and the plants die before bearing any fruit. Desperate, he searches for more at the abandoned house, only to find the entire patch burned to ashes. Because Tad has destroyed their last hope, and determined to see the Krasu dead. With no other option, Noi tells Sai that they must leave the village. Then he plans for them to escape together at sunset, and realizing she'll have to abandon everyone she's ever known, so Sai decides to visit Jerd one last time. But heartbroken Jerd admits that it has pained him deeply to watch Sai fall for Noi, but yet he continued shielding her in secret. But now, his own nightmare has begun, and he reveals that after being bitten by Tad, he has started undergoing a horrific transformation. Because the hunter was no ordinary man, he was a Krahang, the male counterpart of a Krasu. Now Jerd is doomed to become a monster himself. Then tears fill his eyes as he begs Sai not to leave him, because terrified of the lonely fate that awaits him. The next day, Noi visits the monk one last time, hoping for more answers about the legend of the Krasu. Then Monk reveals that the first Krasu was once the wife of the first Krahang. When she betrayed her husband, he tore out her heart in a fit of rage. Ever since that moment, every Krahang has been cursed to hunt down and destroy every Krasu in existence. As the sun begins to set, Sai prepares to leave her home forever. But before she can go, her father stops her. And determined to protect his daughter, then he takes her to the village's public theater, where he plans to prove to everyone that Sai is not a demon. Then Noi arrives at their meeting location, but sees that the girl is nowhere in sight, and realizes that something is very wrong. Without any more medicines, Sai begins transforming in the public as her head detaches from her body, causing everyone to scream in terror. Meanwhile, Jerd becomes extremely hopeless as he realizes that Sai will never keep her promise. Then he screams in agony and begins to transform, and eventually turning into a vampire-like creature just like Tad. Then Jerd flies toward the public theater with Tad, where the villagers are hunting the Krasu. Then he snatches the woman's head from mid-air. Then he glares at Sai with anger and tries to kill her, but Noi arrives just in time to stop him. After looking at the girl and regaining a bit of his humanity, Jerd charges toward the Tad who is truly responsible for this madness, and the two begin a fierce battle in the air. Then Gerd manages to knock the hunter downward, and they both crash toward the ground. The fight continues, but Tad quickly gains the upper hand and pins Gerd to the floor. Then Tad strikes him in the chest and rips out his heart, and Gerd died because of this hot girl. One salute for him. Then Tad turns its attention to the Krasu, as Noi carries Sai's body and desperately tries to escape. And Sai attacks the demon to protect her boyfriend, and dragging it into the skies. But suddenly, a gunshot pierces the vampire's heart, this killing the creature in mid-air. And it turns out the monk had been following them, determined to help the lovers. He then reveals that he was once the husband of the previous Krasu, that one who responsible for Sai's infection. And trying to atone for his past mistakes, then he urges Noi to flee with Sai toward the water, and there a boat is waiting for them. Then Noi grabs Sai's body and rushes to the river, while the villagers chase after them, determined to end the Krasu for good. He reaches the boat and places her inside, but then realizes Sai isn't coming along, because she looks at her heavily wounded body, and knowing she won't survive. With tears in their eyes, they share a final kiss, knowing they are destined to be separated forever. Then Sai cuts the rope, pushing the boat away while Noi watches helplessly. As they gaze at each other in sorrow, a gunshot suddenly rings out and one of the villagers fires at Sai, hitting her in the head and killing her instantly. But Noi rushes to her side, sobbing in agony as he loses the only person who ever mattered to him. So, what do you guys think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. I'll see you next time.